Hello, today I'll be describing a user-defined class that I created called tech.java. I've created a public class called tech. Um, it's describing a technician that has a name, a number of tasks, and an array of time spent on each task. And you can get information about the technician, including its name and the total man hours, what system it works on, and the average time spent on each task. So here I start with my fields, and these are variables used by the class. This is essentially data describing the tech object. So a tech object will have these to start, or at least it will already have space available for it, if that makes any sense. These are private because you don't want other classes and other objects affecting them. You don't want one object changing another object's data because that's what makes them individual, if that makes any sense. So here I start with my constructors, and these constructors initialize these fields here and establish the traits of the tech objects. So when you create a tech object, it has this area data set up already, but does it actually have a variable there, or does it just have essentially room for that variable? Because we know that a tech has a name and a system and this task array, but what's actually there in that location? And that's what's established in the constructors. So I have 3 constructors here, and it's actually an overloaded constructor because it's the same, and these are public because all of the objects have this. And so you want them to be able to access it once they're created. So it's overloaded because these are all the same, the public tech, but the difference is that they have different parameters to start with. So I can just make a tech object but not give it any parameters and not establish anything for its fields. And I can make another tech object and only give it a name and give it this string parameter and give the tech its name. Or I can create a tech object and give it a name, and I can give it a system, and I can give it an array. And that's what this constructor is doing here. So then I have my methods, and methods are something that the tech object does once it's been created, whereas constructors is essentially creating the tech object. So I have 2 types of methods here, and the first set are accessors, and they are accessing data held by the tech. So they're accessing those fields we saw earlier and retrieving that data. So this first one is a string type, and it's also public, and so it's get name, and it gets you the name of the tech object. The second one is public. It's a string type, and it's called getSystem, and it's retrieving the system name that the tech is associated with. And this next one is a double type, public visibility, and it gets the task time. So a technician has an array or can have an array of numbers that represent the amount of time it takes to complete a task. And if you want to only access one of those and find out how long it took them on that particular task, you would use getTask, and it has this parameter int type, and that's index, so that's the location in the array. This next one is getAverage, so that's getting the average of all of the time elements in the array that is associated with the tech object. This next one is a double type and it gets the total tasks. So it's just telling you how many, essentially how many elements are in the array. And this is a string method and it is basically a report that you can ask the tech object for, and it tells you the tech object's name, the tech object system, the tech object's average time spent on each task, and the total of tasks that the tech object's completed. Here are the modifier methods, and the modifier methods are they're methods that change data that is held by the tech object. So this first one is a setting the task array. So that is actually establishing the array. So once an array is created, you want to associate it with a technician and say that basically this is their array of tasks that they've completed with the amount of time in each. And so that's changing that. The second one is setting the name, which is changing the name or giving a tech object a name. This one is setting a system, and that's basically doing the same thing as name. It's just giving the tech object a system. This is setting task time. So if you want to change a specific task time in the technician's task array, you would use this method here. And you want the objects to be able to use these so they're all set to public. So I've also had this tech main file which tests my tech.java class, and it creates some objects here, and I'll go through this quickly. So I've established these arrays and I've called them, I've given them these object references, and they're in double. I then created some texts. So I have Arnold, Gerald, and Helga. And for Arnold and Gerald, I used the constructor that gives them a name, a system, and an array. But for Helga, I gave her the no argument constructor, so she doesn't currently have a name. She has the room, she has those characteristics, but they're not established. They're not set. So I want to see the information and prove that these are actually attached to these. So I print out that information that you saw in the string method and that I described earlier. And then I start working on Helga, and I want to give Helga her name. So I set the tech object named Helga's name using this method, and I give it Helga. And I want to see that that's actually changed, so I call it out. And then I do the same thing with her system, and I establish its microwave. And then I want to call that out also, and I want it to say Helga works on the microwave. So that'll test my set system or get system, and this will check, and it will test my set system, and this will test my get name and my set name. And here, Helga set task array, Helga's task, and that will test my set task array. And then to verify everything and also test this again, the string system, I'll call Helga, and she should come out with the same thing that Arnold and Gerald did when I called them out. And then I also want to find out and test my set task time. So I set one of her tasks time and I change it. I change the index 2 and I change it to 6.5. So this here should say change from 2.5 to 6.5. And then I want to prove that that worked. So I also want to prove get task time works. So I call this out. Oh, I already ran it. I'll just run it again. And there, you saw me run it, and it gets you all this information. So Tech Arnold works on refrigerators. His average task time is 4.6. His total tasks are 5. Gerald works on a time machine, and his average task time is 4.1, and he's completed 5 tasks. And the new tech is named Helga. So I saw what I was expecting to see, and Helga works on microwave. Great. And I printed this out and I said, Tech Helga works on microwave. Her task time average is 2.4 and her total tasks are 5. And how long did Helga take to complete her third task, which we changed down here, or which I called here, which is 3. And that is my class. Thank you. And if you have any suggestions, please don't hesitate to give them to me. Thank you very much.